Reporting live from My Bitch Club, Fight Plus News, I'm John Opp.
What was it like?
When the verdict was read.
I feel like it was designed to protect white people, the system, and it was not designed to protect black people.
News coming out of Texas this morning after her son, Karmelo Anthony, will be found guilty for murder after stabbing fellow high school student Austin Metcalf last year at a track meet. Kayla Hayes is now receiving a wave of online attacks following the trial. What would prompt the attacks appeared to be not only the fact of what her son was first accused of, but it would appear to come from what she would say in court following his guilty verdict. TMZ would report that Anthony's mom would end up pleading with the jurors to have some mercy on her son as he was facing up to 99 years in prison. Now, this update would make the rounds, and Metcalf supporters would relentlessly take aim at Anthony's mother, as some would even suggest that the now 19-year-old should have been sentenced to death, and that the now 35-year sentence he would receive wasn't enough. Some of the attacks online look like, "Mercy, F you. You are the reason your son is a piece of shit and is going to be Bubba's bitch. Did he have mercy when he stabbed Austin? One less criminal in the streets. He deserves a death penalty." While another will go on to say, "Her son deserves to be dragged behind a truck." All right, so trying to do something different, trying to get the story out to you ASAP. Gonna give you a bit more like live commentary wrapped around the report that you were just given. When I think about this particular story, the first thing that I have to notice, and that I think a lot of us do, is the racial divide it has created. You have a lot of people expressing their frustration with it, a lot of people shocked about the verdict, a lot of people want more. As you can see, there's a lot of anger towards the Anthonys. And so those are things that at least I noticed right away. Now, what was interesting was that Austin's father tried to say, hey, it's not about race. He didn't see it that way. It's wrong or right. You know, maybe, but I think realistically, a lot of people are seeing that, hey, if things would have played out differently, if the roles were different colors, how would this have played out, right? So one thing that I did think was interesting that I noticed was that when I went to the conservative platforms that was covering the story, covering the trial, excuse me, they would ultimately be like, hey, if the roles were different, this would have been like this. And their biggest, I guess, complaint about everything is that, hey, if Austin was a black kid and if Karmelo was a white kid, then this would have been a huge uproar in terms of marching and protesting and things of that nature. Now, what I thought was interesting is that that's the same scenario, or at least a scenario that black users were seeing or saying, but they saw it differently. They were saying that, hey, if Karmelo was a white kid and if the gentleman Austin Metcalf was black, then this thing would have been totally different. Then that Karmelo would have been able to walk away. He would have been able to claim that self-defense claim. That jury that he would end up having, which happened to be all white, would have been able to empathize with him and not give him a whole 35 years. So it's interesting to see that, and I definitely wanted to make sure that was one of the things highlighted. Now, for people that are like, hey, again, they don't see the race aspect of it, I want to throw these scenarios at you and just see where your mind goes. So one is, what if Austin was white and what if Karmelo was white? What if they both were white? Does that change anything for you? Mentally, how you think this would have played out? Would it have played out the same in your head? Now let's do the same thing when we ask, what if they both were black, right? What if Karmelo remained black and what if Austin was black? Do you think the outcome, does it go to a guilty verdict? Does he get the 35 years? Would those things still kind of play out? And I think if anything kind of changes in your mind, then that might be an answer for you that, hey, race does probably have a factor into it. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, the jury, the judge, they are all people. They are all people with feelings and all people with perspectives and empathy in different ways, and can be able to connect differently to depending on who's in front of them. So I do want to make sure that we don't scare away from that. Now, moving right along, there was one lady in particular, as well as a bunch of people outside the courthouse, who would definitely make sure that it would be known that race played a huge factor when it came down to the verdict.
What was it like?
What was it like?
When the verdict was read.
I feel like it was designed to protect white people, the system, and it was not designed to protect black people. It's self-defense.
Now, as mentioned, a lot of social media was talking about the whole racial dynamic that comes to the story. There was a user on X that were going to say, They kill our kids or send them to prison. Maybe somebody can help me understand this. A grown man, Rick Chow, chased down a 14-year-old teenager, Cyrus Carmick Belton, and shot him in the back. A teenager got jumped, was defending himself, and now he'll spend years behind bars. We are constantly told to trust the system, but too often the outcomes leave people shaking their heads. If the facts were different, if the names were different, if the races were different, would the outcome be the same? That's not a rhetorical question because we just saw last week a Chinese man get away with murdering a black boy. I'm angry at this verdict. Justice has not been served. Now, some quick facts to throw at you that I thought was interesting. Karmelo did receive a 35-year sentence over this murder charge. Another thing that I thought was interesting was the all-white jury that he would be kind of left with. Again, going back to the racial element, I think we can't overlook that. You know, you empathize with somebody that looks like you a lot of the times. If you ask somebody what city you from and they say they're from your city, you naturally kind of get to a place of comfort. Just to be a little bit more transparent, there was a traffic situation that I had to deal with. And I had my proof and I was like, you know what? I want to go ahead and take it to a bench trial where I can talk directly to the judge and be able to state my case. I felt confident regardless if the judge was going to be white or black. But when I looked at that paper and I read that name and I pretty much felt that, hey, this was going to be a black man judging this, a sense of relief came over me because I was like, man, at least I think he's going to be able to see me as a person, be able to connect with me, be able to empathize with me, be able to understand how the scenario played out. And so I think we all kind of feel that way. There's a comfortability there. You know, if someone has a similar background as you, a similar upbringing, that makes you feel a bit more at ease in knowing that. And so I think we can't ignore, again, the racial component here, given that he had, you know, an all-white jury, was a huge element to that conversation. Now, my other perspective on is that I think the publicity in the long run worked against Karmelo. Yes, I think this was a sentencing about messaging. The DA would even admit this. He would go on to say that this verdict sends a clear message. This to me kind of works against Karmelo because it no longer became about like the intricate details, the facts, his rights, the idea of the trial itself and how he could position himself. It became more about like what are the masses of people that are watching this story, that are following this, what are they gonna walk away with feeling? And I would imagine that they don't want situations like that to occur again, right? They wouldn't want somebody to feel like, hey, if you threaten my space, then you can respond to this way. And for people that want to put a racial component on that, you know, think about that as well. I think a lot of people are feeling that way, that, hey, this became more about the message versus the actual details. And that's something that you have to ask yourself at home in regards of if things would have went differently, if the scenarios had changed, like we were talking about in terms of the racial aspect of it, how much of it. And I do think the other element, if this wasn't so much of a big story, I think things would have worked out a little bit more in Karmelo's favor. And kind of to close it out, you know, we talked about Karmelo's mother getting attacked online and people lashing out against what she's feeling, the mercy that she wanted to have on her son's life. You know, just thinking about it, no one wins though. No one wins. No one wins. The Metcalfs don't win. The Anthonys don't win. Everyone lost here. Because I think sometimes when we get on social media, we think that like people passing away is just kind of like it can be a quick joke or a quick comment. But you got to understand, like, that's permanent. That's final. There's no coming back from that. You know, and that's what one family has to experience. There's no coming back from that. Regardless if he was in the wrong or right, that is what their situation they have to deal with. But then you switch over to the Anthonys, right? How do they now feel, right? What was the circumstances there? What even made him feel inclined to have that on him? Was he being bullied before? Is there a fear that he felt that he needed to protect himself? How did he feel in that moment? You know, and if you're someone that's black, you understand that there is a tightness at times that you can feel when just navigating as an everyday person. You don't feel completely 100% free sometimes. You feel a little bit tense. You feel a little bit like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what's around the corner. And that's the life sentence that a lot of black people have to live. So I think we have to be able to see both point of views and understand that everyone was robbed here. No one won in this scenario. With that being said, let's talk about them in the comments below. In regards of Karmelo Anthony's mother, people attacking her online, do you think that parents in this scenario should be accountable for a situation like this if it involved their child? Let's talk about it right now. And for more news in comedy, culture, and sports, be sure to subscribe here to our YouTube channel and follow Hype Plus across all social media. And don't forget, you can head over to hypersclub.com to get your membership to watch some of our full interviews and more original content. Reporting live from Hypers Club for Hype Plus News, I'm John Abba.